Good Sunday morning. I'm Jaden Jefferson, and welcome to this week's Community Focus. This morning, I'm joined by Ohio House Minority Leader Allison Russo. Thanks for joining me.
Good morning, Jaden.
Thank you for joining me. I appreciate it. So there is a lot, of course, that happens with state government, and I think that a lot of people don't pay enough attention to what happens in state government. So I kind of want to break this down as simply as possible as I can for viewers. So this week in the Ohio House, it was the majority that voted to send a proposal to amend the Constitution, Ohio, to make that threshold 60%. And that's going to be happening during an August special election. Now, you, Leader Russo, you oppose this. So go ahead and give people an idea of why.
Yeah, so we strongly oppose this, as do all former governors, Republicans and Democrats, former attorney generals, bipartisan coalition of more than 230 organizations, county elections officials. So this has widespread opposition. First, because it's being done during an August special election, which we just made illegal, and it's going to cost taxpayers about $20 million. And we eliminated those originally because they have low turnout and they're very expensive. But most importantly, it's because it takes away a right that Ohioans have had for more than a century to directly access democracy through making changes to the Constitution with a simple majority. And so what the Republicans want to do is raise that threshold to a 60%, but they also want to change the signature requirements for how citizens get these proposals to the ballot, which is extremely difficult already. And they want to make that even more difficult, nearly impossible for any grassroots citizen organization. So it's a direct attack on democracy, and we are going to fight it all the way to the August election by voting no.
And when the vote on this was taking place, there were plenty of Democrats, of course, that were in attendance of that vote. And there was a strong show of disapproval there. There were some signs even from some Democratic members in the House. So how is that even organized? Because I guess when you're going to show disapproval for something, you kind of have to make sure you have a group of people that are going to be willing to do that.
Well, there have been multiple protests at the State House over the course of the last couple of weeks against this. There was another large showing yesterday at the State House. They only let a limited number of people into the gallery. We could hear people protesting outside of the doors. They shut the doors, refused to let people in. And yes, when we've got elected officials, politicians who are taking power away from the people. We felt that it was important to have a strong showing with the people who were opposed to this, which is the vast majority of the people who are present there, as well as, what we've all heard from constituents and through testimony. And so there was chanting at one point in the gallery. The speaker removed those individuals from the gallery, and we stood in solidarity with the people that were there to have their voice heard and who were shut out of the process. By also protesting after the vote was taken at the end and joining them down in the rotunda.
You had mentioned that with those special elections, turnout is typically low. So in terms of ensuring that everyone's voice is heard in big decisions like this, like raising the threshold to amend a state constitution, what is that outreach effort going to look like on the Democrats' part in ensuring that their voters are engaged?
Well, let me be clear that, this fight against this in August is nonpartisan. Again, we've got Republicans and Democrats who are opposed to this. And let's also be clear that the primary intent and why this was done in such a rushed fashion and getting it into August and recreating this August special election is because of the intent to stop what is anticipated to be the reproductive rights amendment that will be in front of voters probably in November, if not later on in 2024. And so, I think there are going to be a lot of voters who want to enshrine reproductive rights in the Constitution, who recognize that you're going to have to vote no in August. And then turn around and come back and vote for the amendment either in November or later on in 2024. But the first step is we absolutely have to stop this constitutional change and ensure that democracy remains strong here in the state of Ohio.
And how will the minority in the state house? Obviously, this is a fight that the minority has definitely taken up and is trying to ensure that abortion rights are protected in Ohio. So what do those efforts look like going into the summer?
Yeah, well, now it's in the hands of voters, and certainly individuals within my caucus and the House Democratic Caucus. We will be working in our districts, talking to voters in our neighborhoods and letting them know that it's important for them to show up and vote, very much like what we would do in any election cycle. But we realize how critical this is, again, not just for reproductive rights, but for any reforms to redistricting, any other issue that the citizens feel is important to bring forward in the future. We want to protect this power that citizens have had. And so we're going to be working in our districts to get voters to the polls in August.
And one thing we talk about when we talk about government in general is that bipartisanship. So in order to continue doing the business of the people, what is it going to take to continue those efforts? Because we're definitely dealing with some tough issues right now. So how does that bipartisanship remain where Republicans, Democrats, Independents can continue to work together?
So, I believe very firmly that there are opportunities to find common ground. There are many things that we can disagree on, but there are also many areas that we can find common ground. And, House Democrats, we talk a lot about putting people first and our people first agenda. And it is precisely about really focusing on, what are those fundamental things: freedom, opportunity, dignity for people, and where can we find a common ground, but also not being beholden to extremism and the culture wars that we often see playing out in our legislative bodies, but really remaining focused on putting people front and center and putting them first.
And I definitely think that's a thing voters like to hear, and I think Ohioans in general like to hear, is that they want their priorities put first. Ohio House Minority Leader Allison Russo, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Jaden.
Thank you, and that's this week's Community Focus. Have a great rest of your week.